They say small business is the backbone of America. So what's the best way to support a small business? It is to learn more about them and share with your family and friends. We interview founders from across the world who have started and scaled their business through the ups and downs, long hours, and the rewards that come from sacrificing their time to build their business. Welcome to First to Arrive, Last to Leave, the journey of an entrepreneur.
All right, welcome to another episode of First to Arrive, Last to Leave. We are here with Albert Marquez of One U.S. Construction.
One U.S. Construction.
All right, and you are the COO, or what did we decide you are? The master of what?
M of O sounds like a mean mother or something.
Yeah, I would go M. Yeah. But master of all things running a construction company,
I'm
operations.
the guy that's running it, so. If I need to be CO for the minute, we can do that. COO, that's me. Janitor, that's me.
Yep.
All of it.
Babysitter.
Yes.
I'm sure you have to babysit a few times.
Safety person.
Yeah.
It's funny when we fill out the construction packets when you first get a job in construction, and they send you this sheet, your contact list for your team that's going to be working on this project, and they said, "Here's our team. We're a subcontractor. So here's our PM, here's our general superintendent, here's our site superintendent, here's our safety person, here's our project assistant. I mean, here's the office, accounts payable. Please send us your stuff." And it's Albert.
That's not true, though. You've got a lot of people.
You just get a giant red marker.
Yeah,
so you don't have to write your name multiple
Straight
times.
down.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, like an arrow. Yeah, just fill in all here.
I'm usually the one all the way down. I'm like, all right. Finally, we get to a superintendent, like my field superintendents are like, all right, Jose.
I got one.
Yeah. I've got somebody that's different. Well, tell us, you've got quite a history of entrepreneurship, and let's first go to what you do at One U.S. Construction and how long you've been working there or own that company.
Yeah. We filed, as a matter of fact, I was looking, we just turned in our 200th bid in December.
Wow.
And so I was like, oh man, 200. It's like, I don't know what kind of milestone that is, good, bad, or whatever. And so
as long as you've won a few, that's good.
That's right. That's right. So I was looking at our very first bid was turned in April of 2018.
Wow.
Now, mind you, I was working for another company then as a construction superintendent. So this company actually didn't start until December of 2018. And we got our first job we actually started our first job in October of 2019.
Wow.
So I was looking at the bids because I keep them on a spreadsheet, and I changed the font red to everything we didn't get. So out of the first 95 bids that I submitted, we had 4 small bids won. So it was like, there's a bunch of red, but you stick through it, right? Yeah. And so it was a bunch of work putting in bids. The initial ones, that was tough because you're on the road and working for somebody else. So I was bored. We were all over the country. Mm-hmm. I'd be bored. Like we're working in New York, right? And it was 40 below zero. We were up there and you're bored. I'd watch 1 hour of Game of Thrones. I didn't want to kill it all in one setting. And then I'd work on bids. That was my nightly routine. And it was really tough because you couldn't print these blueprints to scale and see things. Mm-hmm. So I'd print them I had a small office printer that I took with me in a hotel room. And I'd print this baby-sized blueprints, or I'd blow something up so I could see it better and print it. So I'd have all these pages scattered on a table this size, trying to scale things and bid on it and so forth. But so we're officially a company December of 2018, but we really had our first gig in October of 2019. So yeah.
Okay, so this is interesting because we just recorded an episode before you and talked about when to, how many people give up before they should and how many people. So tell us, as you're going through that process, I mean, you're almost a year in running this company, not getting a bid. So what was it where you're like, okay, I know I'm doing something wrong. Let me figure out how to get to better bid or whatever it is versus maybe I shouldn't be in construction. Maybe something's up. Can you talk about that process and what made you keep going?
I think it's what you want. And I didn't want to be on the road anymore. And and I had a crew that it was our lead carpenter on one of my jobs that he said, I got small kids. He said, I'm tired of being on the road. He said, I can't do this anymore. And I was like, oh man. And then the guy, my finishing foreman, he said, same. He said, this is my last job with you. He said, I can't do this anymore. And I was like, oh. So I already started putting some bids. So it was already in the back of my mind. But then I started thinking about it. And I remember really clear thoughts. It was all of our knowledge that was doing these jobs, that was putting it together. The owners merely funded it and were administrators of it. But it was us, the people out there in the field, we were the ones, the muscle behind it, the brains behind it. We had to figure it out. And it was complex. And millions of dollars worth of floors, it was concrete that we were putting down. And I kept thinking, well, we obviously have the knowledge.
Right.
So it's a matter of funding our own and doing it ourselves. So when my crew, a couple people in my crew said that they were leaving, and I said, why don't you stick with me for one more job, which meant about 3 or 4 more months, and I'm going to start something on my own. And they agreed. And they started with me when we got our first gig, and that was it. They found other work in Dallas-Fort Worth. And that's what happens. The team that we had that traveled with us was, man, they'd been together for a long time. They were together before me, right? So I kind of assumed them. And but they really don't have a chance to look for other work because you're always gone and you're always busy. And the money was good, too, when you're traveling. When they're just stuck in Dallas-Fort Worth, they start knowing people, they start calling, friends call, and all of a sudden they're available. Yeah. And that's what happened. And that's what happened to me.
So how'd you get over that? You're not getting bids. You've lost a crew.
Yeah, well,
it's a rough start.
When I first had, like your first question, that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to be on the road anymore. So you stick with it. Yeah. You stick with it. And I knew that I didn't want to lose my ass by bidding them too low.
Right.
So by design, I was probably missing some because I was bidding too high. But I wasn't, I wanted to make sure and bid them right. And so we started hitting, and then you start adjusting, and you start keeping trend data. And so kind of by design, you miss a few, but you stick with it because I thought there's a lot of money here, and I want to make some for myself instead of for somebody else. But yeah, you just stick with it. Probably the question that you don't know, and so the front end of that question that you asked, why do you stick with it? I had a failed business before I started this construction. Failed in that I put a lot more money into it than I ever got out of it, right?
Yeah.
And the day, it was a men's salon, and I bought into a franchise. This franchise ended up, you buy into a franchise because it's kind of like a template, like a boilerplate, right?
Yeah.
You just follow the recipe and it's going to be successful. Well, this was a little bit of a gamble because it's a startup franchise. And they cooked the books a little bit. Well, they cooked the books a lot. And come to find out. And several of us broke away from the franchise, which is really tough to do. And at the time I broke away from that franchise, right at the time that my business was about to get to a break-even point. And what that did is I didn't realize how many of my clients were coming from an SEO, right? And all of a sudden, when you break away from that name, it's like starting over on the SEO. So I stuck with it for another year. And about the time, as a matter of fact, that I got to that break-even point, and by then I was already beginning this business, starting doing something. I hired a manager. I was still on the road trying to make some money with this construction company. The first month that it broke even, I sold it.
Wow.
I sold it. So basically, put money into it. About the time that you break even, it's like somebody made me an offer to buy it, and I've never signed papers faster ever in my life. I'm like, see ya. And we got out of it completely. We had a personal guarantee on that lease that we had. It was in Plano. And we made sure that was done. I didn't want to ever see it again. And we did. We got out from under it. And the thinking there was, well, do I cut my losses?
Yeah.
And go do something else? And now that it's broke even, don't you want to continue it? I just thought that I could make money faster doing this than I could at that. It's going to be break even, just barely crawling for another 2 years, or whatever. I'm like, no, let's ditch it. I followed that principle. I heard a principle one time. It states that a fish never smells better after the day it died, right? It's only going to get smellier and smellier. So I'm like, all right, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
Let's go do something else.
So I would love to know, though, too, because a lot of people, and I had a situation where I had a business fall and it broke. It really messed me up. I had 2 successful exits before that. It messed me up. Like, do I really know what I'm doing? All this stuff. So
it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah. So I want to dig into this because you have a business that it didn't, you call it failed. It was starting to turn, like you saw results from it. It wasn't like it was a complete flop. But now you've moved into this construction company. The construction company is not going out at the pace you'd hoped it would, right? Like you're not getting the bids. How do you keep going? Like, were you just like, I'm not quitting. I don't care. I'm not quitting. Were you like, was there stuff like going through your head of like, oh my God, what am I getting myself into? Like,
some of it is luck, right? So some of it, I'm telling you, a lot of the luck happens because, we're also not dummies. And so we do what we know to do, and then something else turns right. So for every 2 or 3 oh shits, there's all right,
Yeah.
And so
gives you hope.
You have to be an optimist. You almost have to be an optimist to keep it going sometimes. And with me, it was a lot of learning. Even in construction, I thought I knew construction. Well, I didn't know everything that went into before you even start the job, right?
Right.
I didn't know a thing about submittals because somebody always done that. So there's a whole packet of submittals and safety paperwork and just a ton of stuff that has to be right, and your insurance and all of those things. And it seemed like every time that I figured something out, there was just the spark of hope that got us to the next level.
Yeah.
We had just finished my first job was out of town in Angelo, and we were just finishing that up, and we were lucky to break even on that. I hired a crew that did a horrible job. And so I spent a lot of time making that right. And I thought, if I don't get this right, that's it.
Yeah.
I got a bond. So if I don't get this right and walk out on this and let the bond company take care of it, I won't ever get another job. So we stuck through it. And right about the time we finished it, and I said, whew, lessons learned, we got another opportunity. And I kept bidding on things that I improved my chances of winning some bids because I started bidding on jobs that were hard to do. They're hard to do, they're complex, and not everybody's going to bid on them, just from the mere complexity of it. People didn't want them. My very next job after that first one was for a DART station. They were extending a platform, and that was 12 stories below Dallas streets.
Ooh.
Yeah, and that was hard. And
what?
Wow. It's at, if y'all ever want to go there, it's at the City Place DART station. That what's the bar?
Mockingbird. Well, yeah.
The Rustic. That's
yes.
12 stories below the Rustic's where it's at.
I had no idea there were DART stations underground.
Yeah. So we got that, and we did a great job, and got recognized by another big company that ended up giving us 3 more platforms, and those were a lot more profitable than just that one little one that we busted our ass on to get recognized or take the work in and try to keep a crew employed,
Yeah.
So it's about the time something happens and a step back like that, then since then we've put in a bunch more bids, but we've been a lot more successful at it.
Yeah.
And keeping trend data, what's the capability of your crew? We got something really complex. How many days is it going to take to do it? Instead of you're afraid to guess at it at first because you don't have the trend data.
Right.
So so we started getting better at it, and now we kind of hit a sweet spot. We know what we're doing a lot. Our bids.
So it sounds like it's like a cross between risk and luck.
Yeah.
But I think in order to have those two things, there's this perseverance, because you're risking is constantly putting yourself out there, but then luck, but it also comes from work ethic and all of that stuff. What do you think is like the magic for you? Because I feel like there's something special about like what you're talking about, but you constantly keep putting yourself out there. How do you keep a positive attitude through it, I guess is the better way of putting it.
Well, thank you. I don't know. I know that I felt in one side of it, I felt responsible for replenishing the funds that the family that my wife and I put into the first business, mm-hmm. right? So I was like, no, we're going to make this work. Mm-hmm. And then, and I know that I was wanting to grow this business, mm-hmm. and just a little bit success that we had at the beginning, I knew that there was a lot more to come if I stuck with it. So there was always hope there, but I've always felt that responsibility. And we're not there yet, but we're doing all right. Yeah. And okay, well, I'm going to make this up, right? I want to make this up. And then the other thing that I want to do is, I've got a son that's autistic, and he's a high functioning autistic kid. He's really a good guy, and he's not going to have that capability to do the things that I'm doing at 50-year-olds, right? That's a 50-year-old. And so I worry about that. I want to get our family in a situation where I don't have to worry about him when he turns 40 or 50, or we want to let him live a pretty good life too.
Yeah.
So that's been a drive, as well, right? Then everybody's got their reasons.
Yeah.
I'm pretty resilient, and I'm pretty confident, and I think somewhere in there, it's like, God, aren't you afraid you're going to fail? But somewhere, I've always been okay with fear, mm-hmm. and I always take the first step, and then after that, it's like, okay, well,
here we go.
Yeah,
resilient.
Yeah, go do it. Go do it whether you're afraid or not.
Yeah, that's it right there.
Yeah,
go do 100%. It if you're afraid or not, because they're like every day. I mean, you could, like people say, like you could walk, you could get hit by a bus, or you could be in a plane crash. But like if you're afraid of all those things, there is so much you're gonna miss. Yeah. And look at what you've been able to build through.
Yeah.
Courage. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did the experience of Goldman Sachs change your perspective? Now, I know we talked a little bit before we hopped on here about how you had the opportunity to do virtual, but you actually chose to hold and wait and go, face to face.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Okay. So the first time when I had that salon business that failed, they interviewed me. I applied for it, and they interviewed me, and then they said that they declined me because they said that was a group of nothing but logistics people, like material and stuff going, and they chose to do that instead of, stick somebody in there that owns a hair salon.
Yeah.
That I still don't know anything about. But so he declined me, and then I reapplied, and then they invited me back, and they said, well, you got a different business, and she knew what my business was, so I think somebody nominated me, but I don't know who, because she knew that I changed business, and she asked me, Natasha asked mm-hmm. me if I was interested, and I said sure. Okay. And then she invited me to the virtual session, mm-hmm. and I'm not a virtual guy, man, just not. To this day, our cohort meets virtually. I just can't call into those.
I love that you know that about yourself.
Yeah. And I told her, I hope I don't mess up my opportunity to attend one in person, mm-hmm. But I don't want to use up this opportunity and then not get to attend in person. And so I declined it with that fear that I might not I might have missed out on my chance. And when they called me back, I was like, yeah, let's go do this. And they were talking in our cohort about halfway that it might go virtual or something because the virus was coming back or something. And I was like, I'm one of the guys that was like, I guess I'll attend another one because I'm not going to do virtual.
It really makes me think that you've like you trust the timing of your life.
Process,
because that you're now stating that there were 3 total opportunities that you had. One in a business that you weren't happy with, which is sometimes what our crossroads people we've spoken to people where they're like, I went into it with one thing and my growth opportunity was to go a completely other direction. But to say it to have 3 particular opportunities is almost like you were. It's just, I keep going back to resilience when I think about you now, or when I think about what you're saying, it's like, you're like, nope, I know what I'm capable of, and I know the timing, and I'm going to trust the timing of it. And I love that.
It's a great place to be at.
Yeah.
I don't think many people are there.
No.
I think a lot of it, right, is, before I did any of this, I worked for a defense contractor as a professional. And so I've got 24 plus years in a professional environment that being an introvert, I constantly put myself either, I was a speaker for them, I was a trainer, I was so many different things, and you put yourself trying to grow in uncomfortable situations, but you understand your abilities really well. And you get to an age, I'll be honest, you get to the age that no one's going to make you do anything you don't feel comfortable doing anymore. So I'm like, I'm good. Y'all go home.
So defense contractor, hair salon owner?
Yeah. So I came out of that industry.
It makes sense.
I'm loving this so much
very
right now.
Straight path for me. I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
But this is the entrepreneur.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? This is, I'm like, over here.
Yeah.
Way over here.
So I had a great job. It was a defense contractor. Traveled I worked for him for 24 and a half years, and I probably traveled 15 of those years. I was gone almost every week, right?
Wow.
All over the place. They moved the family to Florida. Oh. And then when I got to Florida, I got sent. I mean, it was like we were in Florida 2 months after the family arrived. Then I got put on a 2-month assignment to New York. I get back, and then we had some boring contracts. So I go from one corner of the nation all the way to Seattle, the other corner, right? And I was traveling that for a little bit. Then I got on a 2-year assignment to El Segundo, and I was there for 2 years. And the family come out there in the summer, and I'd go get a trip home about every 6 weeks, things like that. But my last assignment with them was a 3-year opportunity here in Irving. And, well, this is home for us. So I said, would you move the family back? And they did. And then this was just a call center. And they moved our operations. They reshuffled everything and moved our operations. Our headquarters was now in Falls Church, Virginia. And everybody had to bid for their own job and reapply and everything else. And they were going to give me a job as a trainer. That was what they offered me. Nothing here, and everything in here was gone. But the requirement was that we move to Virginia. And I went, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm not moving family again out of Texas. So we left, and I took a package. I got laid off in lieu of that.
Because you went move?
Yeah.
So you were laid off, like this franchise opportunity kind of comes to you out of the blue, and you're like, yeah, hair salon, or were you looking at franchises to invest into?
The applications that I put in, nobody was going to replace the salary that I was making, right? But I was paid pretty well. And I was actually at, I forget the name of the business, I think Right Business, where they actually show you how to interview and write resumes and things like that. I was like, all right. And I put in some applications, and this lady walks in. She's a franchise coach. She walks in, and like, just come listen, look at all the opportunities, and she kind of matches you up with some. And what really attracted me to that business is supposedly it was an absentee business.
Yeah.
Wow.
The only reason it was absentee for me is because, have you ever worked with stylists? Oh my God. I'd walk in there and I'd turn around and walk right back out going, oh my God, I can't even go into my own business.
It's drama, yeah.
It's drama, always. And some of them are great. Some are great employees. A lot of them aren't.
Yeah. They're very creative.
Yeah, and the turnover, trying to get a stable crew. and the turnover that comes with it. It wasn't until I hired a manager and was able to step away that my business actually started growing a little bit. So a lot of it was just me not wanting to grasp that culture, right? It was just, and I just didn't like it. Did not like it. I was like, I got to go do something else. That's not it. But yeah, that's kind of how that came to be.
I mean, it's 3 years, 4 years of time span?
Yeah, we had that salon for 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 4 years and jumped into this.
I love it. Like, I'm so in adoration of, okay, I don't want to do this.
Yes.
Like, you're not going to make me move. Like, you're at a point in your life where, Michael was in here. Like, ageism is real. Like, it's not like you're 20 and like any,
right.
You've got a great salary. Now you got to figure out who's going to match that. Like, you've kind of got this great cushion, but you're willing to go, I'm not doing this. It's not what's best for myself or for my family. So give me the package. You don't even have a plan B at this point. You kind of figure out a plan B.
We didn't have a plan B.
Yeah, and then like you've just like trusted a process, which I mean, God, I need to like get 50% of where you are.
I know, I'm like, right.
But it's like, it's impressive. It really is impressive that you were just like, okay, we'll figure this out. And for so many people, they're so terrified to start a business, and you've really allowed this to drive a life that is so important to you, and you wouldn't give up when it wasn't working out. And we were just talking about that. How many of it is really failure or just you gave up too early? You know what I mean? When it comes to business.
One thing that's true is I'm not that afraid to fail. I mean, we're going to be all right. And I think that I'm smart. So somewhere along the line, it's like, if we don't have to be perfect when we started, and we'll improve it, and it's going to get better. And it's not doing what we wanted to at the very beginning, it's yours, and it is what you make it. And so we move it forward, and that's been true with one U.S. construction company. Man, we've put a bunch of processes in place, and it's to the point this year. It's really exciting this year because I feel like you've built this car, right? And now, before it was just running. And now you're getting this, you got the headers on this baby. You got some
turbo.
You got some new wheels on it. All right. So you're not having to borrow money for gas anymore. So now it's kind of like you're ready for it to perform. You've built it, and it's really in a good spot now where our team, they're a good team, and you feel bad because you know that they're performing to my expectations. And so you're like, golly, maybe I haven't done as good a job as I should have the first couple of years. Because now when I give them direction, they love it. And setting clear expectations, I've gotten a lot better at that, right? Set really clear expectations. This is what you understand. And you asked me, what's the one thing that you get out of Goldman Sachs? Probably, I'm not sure if it came directly from one of the lessons in there, but it was very apparent to me that you set those expectations, and whatever gets improved is what you're measuring. And that became really evident. As a matter of fact, Josh, who's in there, he's an excellent coach. And Josh, one time when we were sitting down, he's got, I forgot what you call it, the scratch pad? I think we called it a scratch pad, right? Do you remember that?
Oh, I didn't get to see it.
I
was always, because we were virtual, but
I'm still bitter about the Josh conversation, but keep going. What? Because Josh wasn't my coach, but we don't have to go. I kept hearing like what Josh, and I'm like, what? But keep going.
That sucks.
I probably decided to get bitter, but keep talking about Josh.
Wait, can we have him on?
Go.
And we do need to have him on.
Yeah. He's super busy, and I had talked to him about it. But go ahead.
You need a bigger space because he's going to be bouncing off a wall.
Yeah.
I think we should just tie him to the chair.
Yes.
We will have him sing.
You got
Josh,
walls,
you will be singing.
Yeah.
But he said it when we were going over that scratch pad, and when I showed him what I was doing and where I was at, and I nearly wasn't ready for it because I didn't want him to coach me yet. I wanted him to coach me when I was ready, because there were so many things that I knew I had to improve on my own. I didn't need anyone to tell me. I wanted him to do the fine-tuned coaching. But whenever I was working extra hard at getting these things ready, so whenever I'd sit down with him, and I remember sitting down with him one time, and he said, He said, if you can measure this, this, and this, he said, you're going to start making money.
So what did you measure?
Yeah,
Yeah, what were the things you measured?
So the obvious project management things of the traditional project management things of cost, quality, and schedule, right?
No.
And so when I started putting real numbers and my schedule and dollar amounts to my schedule, and I knew what my payroll was, and start breaking that down. And aside from just what you bid, you put it on a schedule and you monetize that. So I knew that to make a certain level of profit, okay, these guys can't work on it 2 weeks, it's got to be done in 3 days or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so that helped a lot. And I remember that just resonated with me. And I said, oh, is that what it takes to make money? You know?
Yeah.
But okay, let's keep that going.
Yeah.
When I made the analogy of having a high performance car, I was like, man, all this time I wasn't giving my crew really clear expectations every week. And so now one of the most important things I do is I prepare for a weekly meeting. And I have that weekly meeting. And, you know, I hated meetings so bad that I try to avoid them. My crew loves it. They love hearing that direction.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to do this. You got to plan around that. And, you know, that's measured, it's improved. I can't tell you how many times we used to leave equipment rental on rent and for an extra week because, well, I thought he called it in. They never picked it up. Oh, we just paid an extra $2,200. There was nobody called in that boom lift that sat over there in the corner. So now part of our crew meeting is, okay, the number 2 thing on there is what kind of equipment do we have on rent? And one superintendent, you know, Jose, what do you have on rent? One, what do you have on rent? Nothing. Yeah. Then Eric's looking online. He's our project assistant in the office now, and he works virtual. I said, Eric, what do you show on rent? He said, well, I got something on rent or nothing or whatever.
Yeah.
But now there's no escapes like that. So we're measuring that too, right? Those
That's
things
awesome.
we measure. Instead of just having a credit card, here's the credit card, use it for PPE, gasoline, water, whatever. If you're not measuring their costs, it's amazing how high those expenses get. All of a sudden, I'm categorizing that credit card bill. Like, okay, Jose, why? You know, your gasoline bill this month was whatever, you know, account for this. Or what is this? And, you know, you start calling them on it. It's amazing. All of a sudden, your credit card bill is half of what it was, right?
Wow.
You know, things like that, golly, and these aren't bad people.
No.
It's just they want to know clear expectations. What are we measuring?
Right.
What's my standard, right? What am I going to be measured to? What am I going to, and they're called out on it. They're called out on the schedule. Now, I've also even created their bonus potential around those things, right? The project management things of you meet a certain cost. This is the cost that we go into this job. This is what you got to meet. This is your quality expectations, right? This is your schedule expectations, cost, quality, schedule. And then the other thing that's in there is safety. And safety also ties into, did you turn in all your needed paperwork, timely, you know, things. And you know. Yeah, but
it's a tight ship we're running here.
Yeah, but setting expectations and measuring, like
the measuring piece is really what came out of that at Goldman Sachs.
Well, because you create a benchmark, and then that's amazing.
But even like I remember that whole process because I had an idea that things of what was happening, but to go back and be like, oh. Like I knew for us, we weren't growing. I knew this like 2022 wasn't as good as 2021. I knew I knew we weren't doing as well. But when I went to do the numbers, I'm like, oh, we're 20% down or, you know, and it's like, okay, so how do we, it's like getting on the scale, right? Like sometimes you're like, oh, I know. It's like kind of inched up a little bit.
Today, I'll go tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Like I know these pants are getting a little snug, but it's like when you step on that scale and you're like, there it is. There it is. Now, what do I need to do to, you know, go in the direction I need to go to? It makes a difference.
You're not doing it does not take the weight off, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Or you're not like, I know it's there. I just don't want to face it right now. But I think that's what the program did. It's like, here's your scale, and here's the things that, here's your program of what it's going to take to get to the number you want to.
Yeah. The other thing, you're 1,000% right. The other thing I want to add to that is not only the scale and so forth, but there was a lot of finite, like Deb Pervin. If I could I need to sit through like that section, those sessions, like 10 more times to understand everything she said.
Yeah.
I was like, my mind was blown when she was up there.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, is this recorded? Because I need to go back and
Yeah.
replay. And sometimes I'd feel bad because she'd be talking about something, but I'd still be processing something that she talked about 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And so I'd be the guy that, while ago when you're talking about this, and I'll be like, I'm sorry to take everybody back, but I'm still thinking about whatever she said 10 minutes ago.
My brain hurt after every single one of her sessions where I'm like, okay, whoa, like I know. And even like I've actually been working with Deb because I'm looking at buying potentially a couple franchises, and she's helped me because I'm like, okay, I think there's some things here that don't add up, and here's what I think. And she's like, yeah, you are right, you read that correctly, but she's like, here's also some other areas that aren't adding up. And I thought I understood, like I walked out of there going, okay, I get this now. Not that I've got it, but I get it a little bit more. But now like I love getting to look at other people or other businesses' balance sheets to see where my knowledge is, because I find it very intriguing. But I also realize, okay, I understood about this much, and there's like so much more that I would just love to follow Deborah on and be like, okay, help me with this balance sheet now, or help me with this, like these numbers.
Be a lot of fun.
Yes,
because even sometimes when we looked at the one through the program, or even looking at ours, I'm like, huh? Like I still have that, like, not confident if I'm reading it correctly or if I'm seeing it correctly.
Of all the things in that program, that's probably my weak point still. And that's what I study, and that's what I know in my business. What I look at and continue to try to improve at is the financials. I want to be as confident. You have to be, right? You have to somehow, all right, what are we looking at? What am I missing? Yeah. How can we improve the business? But that's it. That's it. Yeah, and probably the other biggest thing that I got out of that program is it's really nice to talk to other business owners that are in the same place that you are. Yeah. And so, they're all pulling their hair out just like you are. Yep. And you're like, oh, I don't know that misery loves company, but you begin to breathe your own air, if you will. And it's like, okay, I've messed everything up. And then you talk to other people and they're going through it at the same time that you are, or they're going through the same struggles, maybe just a little bit different stage, but you're like, oh, ain't no shame here. We've all been through that. Yeah, exactly. You begin to realize that, I've
had multiple meetings. We go on walks or whatever with other entrepreneurs, and it's either they just finish going through the similar thing, or they can advise on it, or I'm finishing going through something. And I feel like that's what's special about entrepreneurs, is that we all have each other's best interests at heart. And so sharing that information, whether it's a restaurant, construction, whatever it is, it's brass tacks, it's all the same thing. Those numbers all have to equate the same way. So you're absolutely right. That's what I loved about the program. It was like, oh, not just me.
Yeah. But you got to be honest about it too. And that's what I think you get from that program, is like, you want to put on the smile. Everything's great. I'm so busy. And then we're like, yeah, exactly. Like, everything's great. I got through COVID. But then all of a sudden it's like you peel back the layer and it's like, no, like I feel.
How are we going to make payroll?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm holding all these balls in the air, and I know one small move, it's all going to fall, right? Or, house of cards or whatever. But it's like, but you feel like you can't tell anybody what's really going on, because they're perfect. Like, they're got it all together and you don't. So you can't tell them that you don't have it all together, because what are they going to think of you? And it's just this
the first cycle of crap. That it wasn't just everybody was going through it was they made us do this exercise where we got to represent our business on a growth continuum. It's supposed to be in a growth continuum, but most of them look like,
yeah.
And we're like, oh, you did. And then we got to speak to it. So that's the first time that some of us showed some vulnerability in there. And I was like, oh, so that helped. It helped open a lot of doors for everyone.
And it's the type of vulnerability that someone who has a 9-to-5, which respectfully so you get to choose what you want in life. They don't quite understand.
Yeah.
And the perfect example would be is like I know someone who works for a hospital, and I was like, oh, and this number and this number and this number, and they're like, well, that seems like you're failing. And I was like, do you know the hospitals they typically break even? They actually they're how they make profitability. Like you're only looking at it from a perspective as you're an employee.
Yes.
Like they're
completely different.
A whole gamut of things that they have to make it work.
Completely different. It's so funny. There's working with general contractors, and a lot of times I never get to meet the owners of those businesses. Mm-hmm. I'm the owner of mine, and I'm in the trenches, and I'm the one that's going to pick up a check. I'm the one that's filling out safety paperwork, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm still not there. But talking to some of their employees, like we had a recent example of, your pay app is due on this day, on the 15th. You didn't turn it in until the 20th, so we didn't make it on this month's payroll. And for example, this was a DISD project, right? Mm-hmm. So I know that DISD, they don't even take the previous month's pay apps until the 5th. So they had all of that time. But because I didn't do it in time, an administrator of the project said, we'll put it in the following months. And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute. But that includes my concrete, my rebar, some labor. I'm like, and they just took it upon themselves to like, no, we'll wait an extra month. They're not footing the bill.
Right.
And they could care less. You missed it by things like that.
Yep.
It's funny, you call the owners when there's an issue and you're like, man, I hate to go around anybody's head, but I'm really quick now just to pick up the phone and say, hey, Mr. So-and-so, this is happening. Help me out, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they're awfully quick to, all of a sudden they call you back and everything's good. Well, we can do this. But
yeah. You used to be able to take no for an answer, and now I always admire the people that don't take no for an answer. And you learn to do that, where it's like, okay, I know. All right.
Do what's right.
Let's go around. Yeah, exactly. Let's go around and try to figure this out. But to be able to even follow up on that too, like, okay, versus no, that's not okay.
Yeah, it's not okay.
We're gonna get this straightened out.
Yeah. To them, it's like, just you messed up my process, so we're not going to get to it for another month. No.
You're gonna get to it now.
Yeah. Well, you can do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I want to tell you about the name of my business because because I think it's kind of neat.
Oh, I love this.
All right, I love a good story.
I'm ready. I'm ready to sit down. Fireside chat.
Now all of a sudden, the expectations were set too high. All of a sudden, so don't lower your expectations.
Okay. It's only like a kind of cool story.
Yeah, you know. There's when we were coming up, I did some other work before I had this company, and some consulting work, and helped a friend on some stuff. So guidance stuff for another project. So really quick, we need to come up with the name of a business, and it was sitting there trying to fill out the paperwork. It's like, oh, we need a name for this business, and we were sitting there. My wife said, "How about we do like?" She said, "Sueño." This is dream in Spanish. Oh. And I'm like, that's corny. I didn't do that. But she said, well, just turn it around like Oprah did. Her name of her business is Harpo.
Yeah.
Oprah. So she said, just flip it around. She said, nobody's going to see it anyway. And I said, yeah, you're right. So we're the only ones that know about it. So it's backwards is O-N-E, one, and then U-S. And then this lady was talking.
Obsessed with this.
This lady, it was in their school board meeting, and she wanted to share the results from my consulting piece, and she introduced me as, and here's Albert from One US, and I went, One US? I'm like, what the
Who's that Albert guy?
So when we started this construction company, we just kept it, except I just made it one, the number one in US. But it actually started backwards for Sueño, for a dream. But I was like, And
That's beautiful.
That's awesome.
It kind of evolved into One US Construction, and some people like somebody in my growth group, Scott, asked me, One US, you just wanted to be at the very top of the mailing list or something? Yeah. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, that worked out too.
Yeah.
Because the numbers are always first.
Yeah.
So it's double workout.
That's really good.
I love that.
Yeah. It's kind of how the name came to be.
Yeah.
It's a very cool story.
That is a cool story. Worth the hype.
Cool.
Yes, it was worth the hype.
Yeah.
I kind of brought myself down here, but it was definitely up
Okay,
here.
good.
Yeah.
Good,
I was like,
good.
I just say like,
Yeah. You want to do rapid fire?
Yes, I do.
All right, let's do some rapid
All
fire.
right.
Favorite beverage?
Oh, sweet tea.
Ooh.
That's
Any
easy.
particular one? Like, do you go to
I
like?
drink a lot of it, so it's the Crystal Light
Oh.
because it makes it really sweet, and it's
Oh, okay. I'm
Yeah.
for that. Best advice you've ever been given?
Oh, best advice. Probably what I just said about the Goldman Sachs program that you know that gets measured, gets improved.
Gets measured, gets improved.
Yeah.
Yeah, take it.
Yes.
No.
No.
If you could have dinner with anyone,
Oh, aside from a deceased family member, maybe, because I'd say mom every time.
That's a good one,
That's a good
though.
one.
Yeah, mom. Obviously, if it was a business person, I'm a big fan of Richard
Branson. Yeah.
So I would probably say him.
I think I think it's HBO, FYI. There's a new documentary about him.
So maybe
I'm careful
Goldman's
of where
next-
I say that because I can't remember where I saw it. But
maybe
yeah.
Goldman's next like big event
Ask.
they should ask.
Yeah.
I'd be the guy asking them dorky questions. Yeah.
We'd all be like, we have something. Yeah. Okay, so your morning routine.
Coffee first.
Yes.
Yes.
Right? Coffee first. And then I sit there and the dog follows me up to the couch and I pet the dog and then I do Wordle. I do Wordle first
Did you
thing
get
in the
yours
morning.
today?
I haven't.
Did you get yours
played Wordle.
today?
Yeah.
It was it was a tough one.
Yeah,
I was like,
today's
I don't know
tough.
if I've ever used this word before.
And so there's a group of us that share it with one
Yes.
another. So I share the Wordle thing and then I start looking at my calendar for the day. It's like, okay, let's prioritize some stuff here.
Have you ever got it in one?
In one?
Mm-hmm. The Wordle? Have you ever got it in the first try?
Oh yeah, but it didn't count. Somebody gave me a big hint, and it was
Cheating.
So it was cheating. But I have gotten it in 2-3 times. You know your
that's
little
good.
stats. It tells you that.
Yes.
So I've gotten in 2-3 times.
I got it once, or got it in the first try one time, and I was like this. Like literally, I was staring. I was like, wait, how? Wait, what made me think that I needed to use this word? And you start to like, anyways.
Yeah.
It's really fun. You should do it.
I don't. That's exactly why I don't want to do it. But
Well, it's only once.
I don't
a
need
day.
another addiction.
See, the thing is, it's only once a day, so it really doesn't take that much time. It's just, it's like almost like habit stacking.
Okay.
Yeah, and you're right. You only get one shot at it that day, and then you got to put it away.
Yeah.
It's not like you keep playing it.
Yeah.
You're not
Throughout
like
the day.
that game that people play with the jewels, and they're like
Yeah.
this for like 7,000
Yeah.
hours. I can't.
Yeah.
I would never come out.
Same.
Yeah.
That's why no TikTok for Courtney.
Same.
Legit.
do love TikTok.
Are you reading anything right now?
I just finished a book about Ricky Henderson. I think it's entitled Ricky, and it's really good. I'm glad that I read it. I'm a baseball fan, but he's a very interesting guy.
Yeah.
And now, he's regarded as the best leadoff hitter of all time. So it was a really interesting book.
Oh,
I'll have to read that. I used to love Ricky Henderson. In fact, I just went home for at my parents' house, and my mom moved, and she had all these. So I had an older cousin and a younger cousin. They were brothers, and I was sandwiched right in between them. And we hung out all the time. They were like my brothers, and we would trade cards. Like that's what I did to hang out with them. And I had a whole bunch of Ricky Henderson ones. I'll have to see if they're worth anything.
I've got a bunch of old baseball cards. I'm going to have to look through my stack to find his.
Yeah.
I would like to mail him a few and sign these now that I've read his book.
Yeah.
You become a big fan after you read somebody's story.
Yeah. That was made for Jay-Z. And then I found out he stole, 99 Problems was originally an Ice-T song. I saw it on TikTok. I really hope it's not true. But anyway, go to the last question. It broke my heart the other day.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to process that
I just
information.
spun.
I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
First of all, JC has a book, and then second
Decoded.
off,
It's
what?
fantastic.
Okay.
Decoded.
And third, you believed anything you saw on TikTok?
Yes. Hey, My life has changed in many ways because of like great cleaning hacks. Like I told my husband, you can tell my age when I get really excited about different ways I can use baking soda. I'm like, oh my God. Like, did you know that baking soda can be used for,
it's the only thing I've ever gathered from TikTok is everybody using the same soundbite, doing the same dance moves, and then the same, I'm like, but this doesn't even represent your business. It doesn't make any sense to me. So you're dancing to something, but you work at McDonald's. How? How is this? How does this correlate? I don't
think that correlates.
No, it doesn't. But even so, like, we're going to go down the rabbit hole on this. We're going to go ahead and pass for now.
Okay.
TikTok.
Yeah.
It used to be a whole different podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. That's
TikTok.
Yes.
What did you see on TikTok?
I can't.
I didn't even know I had TikTok till somebody, my nephew, we love barbecue and we share barbecue recipes with smoked meat and everything else.
Yeah.
And he sent me some on he said, I sent you a TikTok on this and this and this. I'm like, I have TikTok. I don't have TikTok. He says, everybody's got TikTok. I'm like, I don't think I got TikTok. I got TikTok. Didn't even know it.
Yeah. Someone will send me something and then we'll be like, do you want to download? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No. You just get it out of here. Okay.
Dog training. I learned so much. But anyway, go ahead. Yes. Like dog training. Like I can't even talk. All of a sudden my husband, like, oh my gosh, we need to do this. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry. I digress.
A bucket list item?
A bucket list item. I guess I'd like to go to Europe to see some like World War II sites or national cemeteries and things.
Yeah.
That's a bucket list.
Yeah.
When I think about traveling somewhere, that's like always there. So I'll call that a bucket list item.
Well, that's like an internal a pull. I love that because I love Europe. Anyways, that's another time. A guilty pleasure.
That doesn't have to be guilty.
Oh, my nightly bourbon, I guess.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Maker's Mark.
Ooh,
maybe pizza for lunch. Or
oh my, God bless. Pizza for lunch.
Maybe I don't know if it's a guilty pleasure. Maybe you just call it nutrition.
Joy.
Yeah,
joy.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm gonna have to tell this story. I'm so sorry. I love French bakeries. I love it, and their cappuccino and a croissant will bring so much joy. Yeah. There is a bakery up in McKinney, Bresnan, and I drive up there because I have a friend that lives up there, and it's a fun way to connect with her. Well, I happened to be going to see her, and I stopped at the bakery to grab a few things, and I'm just waiting in line, and this gal behind me was really excited, and she's like, "Oh, what do you think I should get?" And I was like, honestly, I would get this thing, and I'm literally going to go sit in my car right now, and I'm going to listen to French music, and I'm going to have my cappuccino. And she just kind of was like, oh, haha, whatever. I get in my car, I put on my French music, I have my cappuccino, I have my pastry, and I literally am like, my eyes are closed, and I am visualizing that I am in France. And she pulls up, I see a car go by, whatever, and she backs up, and she just beep, beep, and like I roll the window down, and I'm pastries down my shirt. I'm happy as a clam. And she's like, you weren't kidding. And she goes, but honestly, I haven't seen anybody have that much joy about two simple things in my entire life. So pizza for lunch,
yes,
please.
Yes.
That is, makes it is so much joy.
Like my wife will send me to Sam's. Can you go to Sam's to do this? I love the big giant pizza slices, the cheap pizza they got there. Those are the best.
Pizza.
Yeah, it's like the Costco like Sunday. That's like I think they might have just, but yeah, it's like the best.
Oh, yeah. Costco pizza. I could. Yeah, I've actually been with like our graphic designer, and I'm like, well, I know we're on the way to the office, but we could go get a piece of pizza for $1.25.
Yeah.
Joy.
Hey, since we're in it, I do have to tell you something that I read that reminded me of the title of your podcast, First to Arrive Last Week.
Okay.
Oh.
I read this quote. I don't know who I should give credit to, but I did read it, and it said, so business owners or entrepreneurs are the only people in the world that will work 16 hours a day to avoid working 8.
Yes. No, we're insane. Absolutely insane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree. I've heard that quote too. I like it. It's true. Well, if somebody wanted to get to know you, wanted to connect with you, where is the best place for them to go?
I guess since the cohort, I actually catch myself looking at LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
because someone tagged me on it or something, and all of a sudden it pops up on my inbox, and I'm like, all right, let's go see what somebody did or something.
Mm-hmm. So LinkedIn?
Yeah, probably LinkedIn or call me.
Okay.
I'm always good for a cup of coffee request.
So easygoing. Well, we'll link to your LinkedIn on the show notes. So, Albert, thank you so much for coming today.
Awesome,
I love
so
talking to you.
much fun.
I know.
I'm talking to you.
You're like so
Great.
chill.